This is Marvin Acuna from the Business of Show Institute. I'm here with Jessica Bendinger. We're at the annual event for Final Draft and Script Magazine. And I wanted to just chat with Jessica a little bit about a few things to help propel your career forward. So the first question I would ask you is this, and that is, what do you feel, working in the business now has been one of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome because you didn't realize that when you first entered the business? Obviously most writers, they just write their script, they send it out. So what was a revelation for you that ultimately really helped propel your career?
I think the biggest revelation for me, and what really helped, was a real game changer for me with my career, was when I realized what a collaborative business it is and how attached we as writers get to our pages because we've been locked in a room alone for so long with these words, and they become like a Bible to us, and we get very sentimental about it and very emotional because we've had this one-on-one experience, and suddenly you're having to share your baby with all these people who want to chop it up and move the parts around and put on outfits you don't like, and they may have taste that you don't really agree with, and it's really wrecks you at first. I mean, I really wasn't conditioned to understand that process. Yeah. It was a real learning curve for me. I reflexed badly. I had bad reactions. This is the voice of experience. I didn't walk in knowing how to handle it. So right. I think learning flexibility, learning grace, learning a game face, learning a poker face, learning how to assess the room, just having street smarts when it comes to a room. There's a real power hierarchy in a room,
Absolutely.
Power hierarchy, and you have to know, you kind of have to understand that and be humble and be willing and gracious, and it's a real diplomatic balancing act.
Absolutely. I've been in rooms where there's sometimes 12 people and yet only one of them is speaking. And everybody's there sitting taking notes. So let me ask you this, in terms of just the process of an agent.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that came into your life. Because most screenwriters, obviously, that they tend to make that the objective and the goal.
Yeah.
And that's a positive thing, obviously, to have someone in your life to be a collaborator, a partner. But how did you secure your first agent, and how did you manage that relationship? Because it is about managing the relationship.
Yeah, I think, first of all, you need to make sure that you are a good writer. And if without the goods, all the relationship and all the schmoozing in the world isn't going to get you anywhere. And so having objective discernment for your material, which we talked about
Absolutely.
Before, is really critical, whether you use a script service or reading service. Have an experienced eye from the movie business. Not somebody who reads novels or edits newspaper articles or does other material. Somebody who has an objective, discerning eye from the perspective of the movie business is really critical. So I encourage all of you to try and figure that out and pay for advice if you need it. But in terms of getting an agent, I'd say, in keeping with getting good feedback, I had a sense from my feedback that my point of view was the strongest thing about my writing. I wasn't the best writer. I wasn't the funniest writer. I was a lot of okay in a lot of categories. I wasn't the greatest at structure. But what I had that was different was a point of view. I had a really unique point of view. And because of that, I became friends with somebody who wasn't even an agent yet. He was a coordinator on a desk at William Morris, and he had a similar point of view. And we'd laugh at the same jokes, and he got my sense of humor. And he heard I was looking for an agent, and he said, let me read your material. And he said, look, I'm not an agent yet, but I'll help you get an agent. And it was because we had a genuine connection vis-a-vis point of view.
Absolutely.
And it's really important when you're looking for an agent. You don't just want any agent. You want somebody who shares your point of view. So whether you're researching writers and who you like or whose point of view you feel like is close to yours and finding out who their agents are, that's really important.
That's a great strategy. And one of the things that I love about it is when you're writing, you're actually affording yourself the opportunity to isolate your strengths, which is ultimately what you did. And by doing so, you were able to leverage that into a relationship.
Yes.
And the other thing I want to make sure everybody heard is that she started with a coordinator, and that is such a powerful, because everybody is aiming for the big agent. They want to be represented by the monster agents in the business.
No, and I'm still with him to this day. It's been since 1996. He wasn't even an agent when we began our relationship. And he's still my agent today. He became an agent at William Morris. I, in fact, wrote him letters of recommendation at William Morris because it looked iffy. And I said, please, Gregory was fantastic. He was so instrumental. He became an agent. And then when he left and went to CAA, I naturally went with him.
Oh, so that's loyalty for you, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't think of it. And we're very loyal to each other in that way. And because he understands my point of view.
think that's
And
fantastic.
it's so critical.
I think that's fantastic. Well, listen, I'll leave you with this. What is, if there was one sentence, if there was one word that you could say in terms of your best business advice for the screenwriter, what would that be?
The best business advice I can give for the screenwriter is know thyself. Know what you're good at, know what you're bad at, because if you know what you're bad at, you can write around it. And if you know what you're good at, you can write to your strengths. And if you're flailing, you're not doing anybody any good. So really try and know thyself, and that is everything in this business.
I think it's fantastic. Now listen, before we do wrap up, I want to make sure you get a chance to talk
Yes.
about your book
Oh,
and
thank
the contest.
Thank you
Because
so
I
much.
I gotta say something. I think that says how innovative you are as a
Thank you very
business
much.
person in the
And how
industry.
innovative Final Draft is that they're partnering with me.
I think it's
you.
powerful, and I want you to talk about that because I think it's a rare opportunity for screenwriters,
Yes.
and B,
Thank you.
it just really demonstrates how you have to think outside the box in order to promote your business and promote yourself.
Yeah, it's very true. I was approached by Simon & Schuster when Stick It was coming out to write a novel for them. I'd never written a novel before. As you may hear more and more as we start promoting this contest, I began writing the novel in Final Draft because it was the only program I used. And so I used the text program of Final Draft because that was just my default setting. I didn't know I didn't know from any other program. So I wrote the first drafts in Final Draft. When the book was finally done, the book business had fallen on its head and was bleeding everywhere. And there I was standing in the wreckage going, oh my gosh, how am I going to promote this book? And I was looking on my desktop and I saw all those Final Draft files, and I remembered speaking at a Final Draft conference, and I thought, I'm just going to call him. You never know. Maybe there's something we can cook up together. And I met with Alejandro and Meredith at Final Draft, and I said, look, is there any way you'd want to do an adaptation contest where we could do a script to scene contest? And they were completely engaged and enthusiastic about it. And in fact, their enthusiasm made me more enthusiastic. And it's an amazing opportunity for screenwriters to take existing material, which is what we as screenwriters
Absolutely.
do. That's 90% of the job. Take existing material and apply your own creative energy and see what you come up with in a very short framework. It's just a 2 to 5 page scene. If you go a little over, we'll forgive you. But it's a really exciting opportunity
Absolutely.
to try your hand at adaptation. And that's what most of Hollywood is these days, is adapting existing franchises, existing screenplays, existing properties. So it'll give you a chance to try something.
Where do they check it out? Where
They can check it out at the7rays.com. We have a little link, and then that'll take you to Without a Box, where you can enter the contest, and you can download the chapter at the7rays.com or at jessicabendinger.com.
There it is. All right. Thank you very much,
Thank
Jessica.
you so
This was
much.
awesome.
It's so great. Thanks,
All right,
Marvin.
You got it.